Today's guest runs one of the most widely read daily newsletters in the country. Tim Huelskamp is the CEO of 1440 Media, a bootstrapped media company that delivers balanced, fact-based news every single day. And what I love about Tim is that behind the impressive newsletter is a real commitment to building a high-performing culture, one rooted in intellectual curiosity, ownership, and making sure that people do their best career work while they're there. And he's done all of this with a fully remote team. Ha! Tim, welcome to How I Turned the Corner.
Thank you, Kendra. Super honored to be here with you.
Yeah, it's great. But because this is a bit of an unusual guest for us, we haven't really had media on the podcast before. I would love to just showcase a little bit about your newsletter. And so I am just now a recent reader of it. So I'd love for you to just share with our listeners just a little bit more about what you try to do with 1440 Media.
Yes, so 1440 is a news and knowledge platform for the insatiably curious. So we started this company about eight years ago because we had this pain point that we love learning, we're curious people, and we felt like the media landscape wasn't delivering for us in a couple ways. One, all the knowledge is scattered all across the internet, and there tend to be like niche newsletters with sports and politics and culture and technology. And we always said, why can't someone bring it all together for us? So describe, what's going on in the Middle East, what's going on with the SpaceX IPO on Friday, what's the latest Michelin star recipients, what are fall foliage schedules look like, right? So just a little bit of everything, some like knowledge serendipity, things that maybe you wouldn't have thought that you wanted to learn about that morning, but curious people love that knowledge in news. And then the second one was just all this vitriol and misinformation and all this stuff that plagues a lot of the internet content. Busy people that are truly curious don't want to spend time sifting through that. They just want a safe place to learn and just like grow their brains. So that's why we started 1440 to solve those two problems. And yeah, started with 78 friends and family a few years ago and just iterated on the product quite a bit. And yeah, today we have almost 5 million readers spread across the United States. They're 50-50 male female. A third of them have a graduate degree. And interestingly, they're roughly a third Democrat, a third Republican, and a third independent. So
Huh.
yeah, it's these folks that are looking for knowledge and not all that, everyone yelling at each other and the polls, the two polls that get really loud out on social media. Most people just are, busy professionals with kids at home that love learning and they want someone to help them learn. And that's what we do better than anyone. Well, I'm biased there, but I think we do really well is we have curious people that really enjoy their work, that are very passionate about their jobs, and they're learning every day. And then we just take that knowledge that they learned and we ship it out in service of others so they can learn as well.
Yeah. Well, it's interesting because I've we work with job seekers. I help a lot of people who are on a job hunt. And I will say that one of the most toxic environments typically are media companies. And so some of my saddest stories have come from former reporters and media room type people. And I was just so excited to chat with you because you are not only creating this amazing newsletter, but you've got this incredible culture. So, I mean, why? Why was this such a focus for you? Because it's not really something I would think that you just sort of grew up with inside of the media, you know, industry.
Yeah, so I think one of our advantages here was actually most of us aren't from the media world,
Okay.
and we're kind of outsiders that have come in. Now, since then we've hired editors from Bloomberg and all these different places. But when we started it, we didn't really have any media experience on the team. I actually came from the private equity world, so I did financial transactions for about a decade before this. My favorite thing that I learned there was okay, we had a $20 billion publicly traded private equity fund. We had 300 companies, and one of my jobs was going into like a broken company and helping fix it. And we just went back and looked at what is the biggest driver of company value. We actually looked at before we invested in the companies and then once they exited and looked at the difference. By far, the single most important thing you could do is hire the right team,
Yes. And
right?
yet,
So
how
that
often does private equity look at that when they're in the due diligence phase? Never, right? But that's great that you guys were doing that.
Yeah, I think we were different among the private equity firms at the time, and so I just really I saw that firsthand. So we would have companies where you had 300 employees, a dictatorial CEO who usually surrounds himself with like B players or C players because they want people saying yes to him. And you'd walk into these environments where literally for a decade, people would not be available to share their ideas. They weren't rowing in the same direction, just like really broken cultures. And my favorite thing was we would drop in one of our excellent CEOs. My favorite one was named Kim, and she would come in, and you'd come back to that business 3 months later, same 299 people with one new leader. And it's a completely transformed company because she was so passionate about yeah, opening up ideas, getting everyone rowing in the same direction, changing the compensation structure, changing this structure around, like working at all hours in the day and burning the midnight oil. And that was my favorite thing. And I think is the biggest thing I learned in private equity was, yeah, the business model matters, the product matters, the market matters, but the single biggest unlock of value is actually how you treat your people. Uh, Actually, I would even go back a step. How you recruit your people, how you train your people, how you help them grow into the roles that they want to become. But just the most important thing you can do as a founder is create an environment where incredible people want to come work with you and then let them do their jobs, get out of their way, and create an environment where they can thrive professionally. And I saw that firsthand in my decade in private equity. So that was the biggest thing I learned. And I tried to take that, yeah, kind of that ethos here into what we build at 1440.
Yeah. Well, I would validate everything you just said completely with what we see too with our clients is the ones that systematize hiring, training, and managing and actually treat it as a business function that will deliver to the bottom line are the ones that see the biggest results. And so, because, and as you've already figured out, and I want to chat with you more about, like when you figure out what those values are and how you're going to hire for them and fire for them, it is a really important part of building that culture and getting the results. And so, do you mind? I mean, I don't want to repeat what you've said on a lot of other podcasts, but what was the origin for you to get so clear around the values? Like, how did you determine it?
The values of 1440.
Yeah.
Um, I think it's a combination of my work experience in private equity, and then also one of the things my team gives me kind of makes fun of me for this. I actually have a slight obsession with studying other founders in the space, both historically, so like, Andrew Carnegie and Jeff Bezos, Oprah, modern founders like Melanie Perkins at Canva. And so like there's really cool information out there about how they built their companies successfully. And I study that all the time. So like I'm listening to like how they built their companies, what made them successful. And yeah, I think one of the things that I've learned over the years is they're all saying the same thing if you really listen to the
Yeah.
successful founders, right? There's different principles or values that they hold, but on the people side, they're basically all saying the same thing, right? It's like hire and develop world-class people, pay them above market, and get out of their way. Make sure you're hiring people that enjoy the work that they do. Like obviously not all 40 hours a week are you going to love maybe everything about your job, but you want to hire people that are passionate about the work they're doing. If you're hiring a new social media person, you want someone who gets lit up by social media and like loves it and loves the intricacies and nuances of it. That's another lesson I've learned over the years. I think that the importance of being a servant leader and having like an open culture where people can learn from each other. So, one of the things that we've taken from a lot of these other founders is just a super transparent organization. So like almost every number that we have as a company is shared with our team and everyone understands why we're doing every initiative. And on our Monday calls, we actually share, we split it into two every other week, but literally everything the company's doing. So our 24-year-old seller that just joined with us understands why growth is doing its strategy, what the product strategy is, what the brand strategy is. And what we found is the more you can teach people about why the company is doing things and like connecting the dots for them, it not only makes them a better seller or like their specific organization, but also it makes them like be more invested in what you're building as a company. So I always say, like, how do we make it so when I was younger, there were a lot of rooms that I probably shouldn't have been in, but I had a lot of wonderful mentors that would pull me into those rooms so that I could learn different strategies. And like in hindsight, I didn't realize at the time, but they were developing me to be like a better employee, better colleague, and also for my future, right? So we want to make sure we're doing the same thing here. Like I like to say on some of our Monday meetings, we have a lot of conversations on strategy that would normally be in boardrooms. And we're having those because I want people to understand one, like why this is our vision and where we're going, what our North Star is. But second, so they can learn that for their own development, right? So it's like you're investing in them and helping them to be better colleagues and like in their own development. And I think what I've heard from our colleagues is that investment like really pays back because not only are they invested in the company and what we're doing, but we're also investing in their future as well. So like if they one day like we want to keep people forever, but if they want to like start a company one day or go off and do something by themselves, like we're teaching them those skills. And like we find that that's actually a big differentiator in the market because now it's like you're not just coming here to be a seller, you're coming here to be a great seller, but you're also learning product skills and growth skills and board level strategic skills as well.
Hmm. So let's talk tie this into then your remote team too. So as you've probably seen, because you're a news junkie like I am, the last couple of months there's been a lot of articles that have come out around the negative side of remote work. And that especially with a younger team that they really are the people that are missing out the most in according to some of these articles around having a non not having an in-person office experience. How are you guys doing that? Like you just onboarded, you brought in this new 24-year-old salesperson. What's it like? What's the experience like with them, everyone being remote on the team?
Yeah, so we do this a couple ways. Like one, we have tons of Zoom sessions and Google Meets throughout the week where you're having one-on-ones with people in your organization, where you're meeting on a team to discuss strategy. We have our team meetings every Monday. We're also a big fan of offsites. We've been doing those since the beginning. We do two big ones a year. One in the winter, which is just our colleagues for a week, and one in the summer where we actually invite your significant other if they'd like to join. They don't have to join, but we found that just the bond you create with the significant others, and even when they get to meet and meet each other and spend time with each other, it actually makes it really, really special time. That's been wonderful. We also do smaller team offsites. So like our sales team will get together, our growth team will get together, our editorial team will get together because there is a lot of value in being together. But we try to make it so it's like the offsites and because we have 27 colleagues and they're all over the country. So like let's bring them together to spend that really special time together. When we're doing the offsites, there's actually very little, not very little. The majority of the time there is hang out.
Hmm.
The more we've done those, the more we've realized let's talk about strategy, our future, where we're going in the next decade, but let's leave time for those like special bonds to be built in real life. Um, I will say though, I do we're still figuring that out because I do wish we had more in office time. I don't think, being in the office 5 days a week is the best approach, but I do wish we had more time. But also, it's part of our recruiting strategy. So we look for people that want remote work that basically
Hmm.
maybe like are incredible at their job and they have two kids at home and they don't want to be on the train for 3 hours a day going in and out of the city and they want that flexibility. So we actually think that we call it like our talent TAM, our talent total addressable market. We actually think by providing that structure, it really opens up our talent TAM and gets us we're in Chicago we're headquartered in Chicago where I live. The Chicago MSA is 3% of the United States. Like now we can get 100% of the United States. So our talent TAM considerably opens up, but it's maybe not for everyone, but I do think that it's growing for like what the types of people that want that flexibility where they can be wonderful parents, they can have free time throughout the day to do what they need to as long as they get their work done. So I think like that's a growing trend, but that's how we've built the company. I'm not saying it's right for everyone, but that's how we built it. And it's actually given us a lot of advantages on our talent TAM.
Hmm. Yeah, we're an all remote company too, and we have been since day one. And I have found it to be, I mean, work really, really well. what I think what makes it different than what you would maybe call a traditional office environment and just the leadership of an office environment is that you do have to be more intentional when you come together, and not just intentional around like what you're doing, but even intentional about like who is there. And
Hmm.
so, one my husband's company, former company, had a sort of mandate for 2 days in office, but it wasn't like the same 2 days. So there'd be times he'd show up at the office and be like one of, two people there. And it was like, well, that's a waste of a shower. You know?
Yeah, you hear a lot of these horror stories where people go into the office and they just sit on Zooms all day because
Yes.
everyone's in the office. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, exactly.
Exactly. So that doesn't make sense. But I think kind of in the theme around like, having to change the way we lead to keep up with what now modern or our new workforce needs as well. This is one of those areas, like trying to find ways to have people have more agency over their schedule. So yes, maybe they are not having to travel on the train and they're using that time really productively, whether that might be being able to spend time with their family or meeting the objectives for the company. As long as those things are being met, it doesn't really matter when it's happening. And so, or where it's happening. And so giving people that agency, I think is still a really, really important part of what's needed now and also into the future. And it sounds like you guys have definitely got from my perspective, a really good way of managing that.
Yep, couldn't agree more. And then we try to, Drew, my co-founder, wakes up every morning, works a little bit, walks his daughter to school, goes to the gym from 12 to 1 every day. So yeah, we kind of have a policy, as long as you get your work done, we don't care. And like one of the things that's been interesting, having some really senior folks that have come from other industries where that wasn't the case is in the beginning when they join, maybe like month 2 or month 3, they'll send me a Slack and they mean it very well, but they'll say like, hey Tim, I have to go pick up my kids from school at 4 o'clock, just FYI. And I'm like, I don't care. Like go,
Hmm.
like we trust you. We
Yeah.
trust that you'll get your work done. You don't need to tell, I appreciate you saying it, but you don't need to tell us that. Like just get your stuff done. We believe in you. You have the agency. Go for it and manage your life, manage your work-life balance accordingly.
Yeah, no, exactly. It is interesting when I have new people join my team, the first few weeks even, they're like, "Is this for real? Are you sure?" And I'm like, "Yeah, you'll get used to it. It does take a little bit of time, but yeah." I promise you, I don't really care what happens. I care, but I don't care. Yeah. Well, so let's talk then a little bit about the kinds of people that you are really looking for on your team. So again, in media, I mean, you obviously want people who are extremely smart, curious, things along those lines. But like, what are some of the fundamental like deal breakers, things you will not bring onto the team in terms of people that are
Yeah,
typically, in the industry?
yep. We look for three things when we hire, a bunch of things, but really breaks down to three. So one, as I said earlier, passion and love for the work. Like, do you get lit up by whatever job you have? Because you can't replace that. If someone's deeply passionate about, as I said, like social media or face acquisition, like people that love their work and find deep passion in it, they'll go the extra mile. They'll come up with ideas you could have never wildly imagined. So one of the biggest, most important parts is finding those people that are doing the work that they love, and that's the biggest one. The second one is, as you said, I call it horsepower. So like intellectual horsepower. Are they brilliant? Are they deeply curious? Do they love learning? Do they, when you meet them on a Zoom or in person, within the first few minutes, do they blow you away with their brilliance? And like if they don't, I always say just politely move on. That doesn't mean, by the way, college education or you have to have a certain degree. We have a lot of people, a couple people on our team that actually did not go to college, but if you meet them, they'll blow you away with their brilliance. So it's really understanding like how smart they are. Unfortunately, so with those two, sometimes you can get really passionate people that are brilliant that can be terrible cultural fits. So the third one is culture fit, right? So for us, is everyone a kind, caring, curious human that sees the world the same way as us? And sometimes again, like, we meet really smart people that just they would ruffle feathers, they wouldn't be a good culture fit. So that's like in our interview process, like where we're hanging out with them and getting to know them. Like, would they be a great addition to our company offsites? And do they see the world the same way? And we found when you package those three, love for the work, brilliance, and great culture fit, that's where you really get superstars.
Mm. Yeah. And so in some of the former podcasts that I read or heard with you, you talk a lot about the A players hire A plus players and B players hire C players. Um, can I just, I want to just dispel one thing about that and or talk with you about one thing. Like I've worked now with like thousands of people and I'm a pretty judgmental person as well. And what I have learned after all these years of doing this now is that I really believe that everyone has a gift to give this world. And so I don't really think of people anymore like a B player or a C player. I really just think of them as just not in the right job. Is that fair? Is that a fair assessment or am I being naive? Like, let's, with your experience, especially in private equity.
It's a great question. I would say I think the difference might be when you're at a small company. We do over 1 million in revenue per employee, and we're a very flat organization. So everyone has to be a high performer here. If I was at, hopefully 1440 gets to, hundreds or thousands of employees one day. If maybe we hired someone and they weren't a perfect fit for that role, and then there was another role that they were a perfect fit for, and they had those three things, like could they um, adjust into that role, perhaps? But I don't know. It's a great question. What's your take on that? Do you see it? How do you see it?
Well, I just believe that everyone does have a gift and that maybe it's not for my company. That's I'm not saying that they all belong here, but I do think that given a clear understanding of like what you're great at, getting a really idea of like what are your deal breakers, like what are the things you are willing or not willing to live with in a company culture or just even with the job itself. And then also having a clear idea of like why do you even work? Like what is the reason for it? Because like you said earlier, some days are going to be hard. Like you can't expect 40 hours a week to just be blissful. So it's really helpful to also know that there's, why you're working and what you're aiming for. And like I see when those three things kind of come together for people, they and then they find a job that aligns with all that, like they're happy. And they may have been at like, I mean, I was a software engineer before this. I was a B player. Maybe I try to justify this because I didn't really wasn't very good at it. I wasn't wired to get up every day just like can't wait to code. Right? And so, but does that make me a B player across everything? Of course not.
Yeah,
And so I think that's why I have that view too around like, yeah, I think everyone can be an A player in the right environment.
I think that's a good point. I think I agree with that. Yeah.
You do? Oh,
Yeah,
okay,
yeah,
good.
yeah. But I think the difference is like from our purview is like when you have, you're building a company, it's very small. Like you need to have A A players in every role. And if someone isn't an A player, maybe it's actually serving them by allowing them to realize, hey, maybe you shouldn't be a software developer. You should go
Yeah.
build something new. But that doesn't mean, to your point, that maybe it's your job at the company to always find that for them. Because like at our business, we're not that big where we can shift people around into totally different careers. So we try really hard to spend most of our time on the upfront with the hiring process to make
hmm
sure that we're finding those A players for that specific role.
Yeah, and I'm in total agreement with you on that. I think especially small businesses can't afford to have a bad hire. I mean, it's where their bottom line is eroded quickly, which always just shocks me then too. Like, why isn't there more of a process just automatic to the hiring process for small businesses? Because it is so expensive to have a bad hire. But yeah,
Can I
that's
walk you through our hiring, how we do our
yeah,
hining?
I would
It's
love it.
it's a lot of stuff I learned in private equity, and I think it's would love to share it with your audience if it's helpful. Yeah, so in private equity, one of the things we learned was we had a $20 billion fund, and the difference between 20 or 10% and 12% return on your money is a lot of money. It's like hundreds of millions of dollars. So yeah, we spent a ton of time on the hiring process. And one of the things that we've learned as a best practice, I borrowed this from the private equity world, we still do it here at 1440, is yeah, we have like, the first round interview. Typically I take that one. As we've gotten bigger, we'll slightly adjust that. But if it's like a VP level, I want to take the first one after they've been screened because I want them to understand our vision and our mission and where we're going as a company and really understand like, yeah, like why you should be interested in this role and almost do it like a little bit of selling in that role in that first interview. And then in the second half of the call, I flip it to them and I say like, walk me. why do you love social media? Walk me through your background. And I think a lot of those times you can see if you're on with like the, a CEO or a very senior person at a company and they don't ask incredible questions, right? Like I'll be very polite about it, but it's like gone, like not
Yeah.
even like later, right? So
Yeah.
like if you're like trying to like leave your job for a new job and you don't have like really thoughtful questions around the company's strategy or how you can fit into it or how you can build on that strategy, like that's the first one. I'm kind of okay, time to move on. Very very nice about it, and like it'll happen at the end of the call, but. That's the first one. And then we have multiple rounds where they meet other people in the team. But the biggest learning we took from private equity was we actually do a mock board meeting. So what we do is we say it's for our VP of social. We say, we would like you, we'll pay you for your time because your time is valuable. So here's a stipend for, it's usually like $150 an hour. Let us know how much time you spent on this. We would love to meet you in 2 weeks and bring your vision for your 90-day plan for your 3-year vision for your organization. And what it does is a couple things. One, we sign an NDA, we send them our board decks. They can ask for any information they want. And what it does is allows them to dive into your company and learn more about it. And then also have them show you their skills, right? Like, am I a good presenter? Do I have strategic vision? How do I interact with my colleagues? So what we do is we then schedule a mock board meeting for about 90 minutes, sometimes longer, depending on the seniority. And we have a working session where the person presents their vision and we bring all the senior leaders of the company onto it. So sales and product and growth and people. And we have this mock board meeting where it's like, okay, we're going to do this on social media, this on Meta, this on Facebook. We're going to do like they almost do like an audit of your business too and tell you
Hmm.
like how they would take it to the next level. And it's just this really wonderful exercise because you get to see how their brain works. You get to see their strategy, strategic chops, and then they also get a sense of what it's like working with you because right, all the senior leaders are on the team as well, and like they're asking questions and you're diving deep and you're problem solving on this 90-minute call. So it's been like a really awesome experience for us. And fun fact, we've actually had no one ever go through our whole process, receive an offer and not accept the offer. Because not only are we like they're getting to know the company through their study of it and like their presentation of it, but they kind of feel like, they end the interview process. It's like, I know exactly what it's like to work there because I've been working I mean, only for like a couple hours, but I got to feel like what it's going to be working with like the head of product, Aaron, and the head of like our sales leader, Amanda, right? You actually feel it and it creates this like really special environment. And again, we've never had anyone, all of our hires have done that in some form. Never had anyone gone through the process, receive an offer, and not accept it.
Hmm. Wow. Now, how about for the junior level people, like the sales guy that you just brought on?
Yeah, so we do a similar process. It's just like a little bit shorter, right? So it might be like a 60-minute call on maybe not the 3-year vision for the sales organization, but what would be your prospecting strategy that you would employ? So it's you have to make the deliverable commiserate with like the level of work that they'll be doing for your company. Because also like it's not fair to ask someone 1 year out of college like what their sales strategy should be because like
Right.
they haven't seen that. So
Yeah.
we'll like dial it up and down for the specific role, but we do the same process for every person we've ever hired.
Okay. Yeah. That's interesting. That's great. Yeah, I think probably what most companies miss out on, and I think you're getting it as a byproduct of that experience, is most people really miss out on this sort of interviewing them for the culture fit, but not in a way where you're like, oh, do you have integrity? It's like a value, right? Well, nobody's going to be like, no, I don't have integrity, right? I mean, and so you can't really get a feel for like how they think in terms of what the root is for what you want to see with someone with high integrity. What's the behavior? And that's the part too that I think you're seeing in those mock boardroom meetings is you're seeing the culture fit through their actions and their behaviors. You can also get that way though, get to that too by asking really specific questions in around like what are the behaviors you really want. But you have to ask them in such a way that they don't know what the right answer is. They're having to really draw from their own vocabulary and like how they would describe their own way of being. And then you're listening for kind of the right answer, right? Or listening for the right behavior. And that's the part that is a little bit more challenging for people to wrap their arms around. But that's cool. That's really neat. I'm glad that's working for you too, because you've obviously built an incredible company. And so I think that's a perfect place for us to potentially end here. I can't wait to now chat with you again when you're at, I don't know, 60 million subscribers in a couple of years. What do you think?
That'd be lovely to can't wait to come back and tell you about what how our people practices led to that success.
Yeah, I would love that. That'd be great. Well, Tim, thank you so much for joining me on How I Turned the Corner. It was great to
Yes,
have you.
thank you so much for the time. And actually, real quick, if I could be
Yeah,
helpful to anyone, I'm at tim@join1440.com. If anyone has a question or I can just serve in any way, or
thank you.
would love
That's
to
great.
yeah, would love to be helpful however I can.
Yeah, and we'll put all this information in the show notes as well, so people can follow and subscribe as well as then maybe get in touch with you too. So excellent.
Love it. Thank you so
Thank
much for the
you.
opportunity.
Yeah, thank you.